Welcome to the Unlist. Episode 56, Compartmentalization. What is compartmentalization? Well, dictionary definition, you already know. I ain't gotta tell you. This is compartmentalization in regards to fragrance usage. This is basically the flip side to episode 24, where I discussed signature fragrances, or people who would buy and only maintain use of one fragrance for the majority of their adult life. That became their signature. They may not have intentionally sought out a signature. It's a weird little mind game that people in the online fragrance community sometimes like to play. I need to search for my signature. I need to find my true signature. And I debunked that because that's kind of just madness. You are never going to find your one true signature. You're never going to find that holy grail. You're never going to find that Maltese Falcon, because once you think you found it and you start wearing that fragrance and only that fragrance, you get bored, and suddenly the other 25,000 fragrances you bought, now you're like, well, now I want to go back to wearing those. This is no longer, it loses its luster, the polish, the patina. Eventually it's like, it's not. So the kind of mindset you need to have a signature fragrance is the kind of mindset that would have you not even perceive that as a signature fragrance. If you are wearing a signature fragrance, you probably aren't even aware of it, is what I'm saying. Your dad, when he wore nothing but Old Spice or nothing but Brut, didn't perceive that as his signature fragrance. It was just the fragrance he bought from the corner store because he liked that one the most, right? That's it. So this discussion is the flip side. This is the people who have their office fragrances, their clubbing fragrances, their summer fragrances, their winter fragrances. This is the people who have, okay, I'm doing a theme this week, so I'm wearing nothing but green fragrances, or I'm wearing nothing but musks. Okay, I've got my rotation. This is my rotation, which means I have a large collection and I'm pulling like 20 bottles from it. And that's going to be the only thing I can reach for the next month or 2 months. It's my rotation. Then at the end of this month or 2 month or quarterly period, whatever it is, 3-month period, I'm going to put these back and pull 20 more and make that my next rotation. Okay, that is what compartmentalization is in regards to fragrance. And my opinion is there's nothing wrong with it. Because at the end of the day, whether you own 20 fragrances or 20,000 fragrances, God forbid, but if you own that many, you own that many. Whatever you need to do to make sure you're enjoying the things you bought and they aren't just sitting there collecting dust, it's fine by me. So the answer to the question is, should I? I don't know. Should you? Do you need to? That's one of those things where you kind of have to answer that question for yourself. You're the one that keeps buying fragrances, right? You're the one that didn't stop when you had like 7 or 8. You didn't stop when you had like 15 or 20. You didn't stop when you had 50 or 60, right? You can take that all the way up to whatever number you want. Whatever number you want, doesn't matter. Now, are there such a thing as office fragrances, clubbers, casual fragrances, formal occasion fragrances, summer, winter? Yes and no. I mean, again, these are all arbitrary rules. These are all adjectives that we apply to the fragrances because when we smell the fragrance, that's what we think about it. In terms of what the manufacturers think, what the designers think, the niche brands, whatever, they're just going to call the fragrance whatever they think they have to call it to make you buy it. So if they make a fragrance and they think that labeling it an office fragrance will make people buy it more, that's what they'll call it. But I personally don't recall ever seeing an ad for any fragrance that is considered by the online fragrance community, right, to be an office fragrance. I've never seen the actual house or maker of the fragrance call it an office fragrance. So all of you people that are like, yeah, Prada L'Homme is an office fragrance, I've never seen a Prada ad. Never not seen one Prada ad say this is the new office scent, right? Never seen it. Same thing with the clubber fragrances, you know, like the Le Mals and the 1 Millions of the world. I've never once seen Jean-Paul Gaultier or Paco Rabanne put out an ad that said, you need this fragrance in the club. If you're going to the club, this is what you wear. Never seen it, okay? So that right there is food for thought for you guys out there. And as somebody who also compartmentalizes, I do, all right? I am not a hypocrite, okay? I do it too. I am just as guilty. You know, he who is free from sin shall cast the first stone. I'm not throwing stones here in my glass house. That's idiocy. I'm not doing it. But food for thought here is that the sellers of these fragrances, the makers of these fragrances, they ain't the ones calling them office fragrances, clubbers, summer, winter. They're not. I have seen many ads too for fragrances that would never work in high heat, right? Fragrances that are full of spices, full of resins, full of patchouli, okay? Very musky, animalic fragrances. I've seen ads where ladies in a bikini, guys in like a Speedo, okay? It looks like they're at the beach. Like I've seen ads for stuff like Obsession, Calvin Klein. Classic example. The old Obsession commercials, they're on the beach, they're sitting by the pool, okay? They're sitting by the pool. Now, you know what Obsession smells like, and you know that is not a fragrance you wear at the poolside. Not at all. But, again, they don't care. They think that putting, you know, hard bodies in little string bikinis or whatever is going to make you run out and buy that bottle. They're not sitting there going, well, actually, Obsession smells more like a romantic, cold weather evening fragrance, so maybe our commercials should match. No. They don't. They don't, okay? Trust me. Honestly, and I don't want to give kudos to anybody here, but I feel like the first brand I've ever seen actually assign a context to the fragrance is Jeremy Fragrance's brand, which no longer exists, but the Fragrance One brand. I feel like you got to give credit where credit is due. So this is like a red letter moment for me, because you probably would never expect me to get up on camera and congratulate Jeremy Fragrance for something, but I do feel like he was the first, at least that I've seen. Could it be others? Yeah, but I want personal experience alone here. But he was the first person I've ever seen assign a purpose to the fragrance. This is office. This is date, okay? This is black tie. Telling you, this is where you should wear the fragrance. And I have designed this fragrance, or I have hired someone, more likely, I have hired someone to design this fragrance to be good for what the bottle says it should be good for. I personally don't like prescriptive stuff like that built into the fragrance, you know. That's a turn off for me, which is why I wasn't a big fan of that range. So let's make it clear. I'm going to say kudos because he had the foresight to do that. But on the other hand, I don't like my fragrances prescribing me. I like to figure out for myself, should I wear this in the office? Should I wear this in high heat? Should I wear this at nighttime? Like, that's a thing that I would like to determine myself. And I feel like people in the online fragrance community come to a consensus. Like, again, whether you're Fragrantica, Base Notes, Parfumo, wherever you hang your hat, I feel like the general consensus among people is that Prada L'Homme is, in fact, an office fragrance. It's because it is dry, it is sharp, it is soapy, it is clean, it is almost entirely devoid of anything that you could even remotely consider racy or scandalous or sexual in nature. It is such a prim and proper scent, you know. When you smell Prada L'Homme in the air, you think that's a person who is into grooming. That is a well-structured person. You don't think, oh, that person's going to bend me over a table and, raw dog me out. You're just not, you're not going to think that. You're going to smell that and be like, yeah, that's someone who, cares about the way they look, I guess. So, and that's the kind of thing you wear in a workplace, right? Fragrances that make you smell clean and groomed and prim and proper and strike a pose and vogue, okay? Meanwhile, you wear a fragrance that's like full of patchouli, full of spices, lots of sweet fruit notes, real appealing, real sort of extroverted fragrance, whether it's new or old. So it can be Lapidus from 87, it can be Le Male from 95, it could be 1 Million from 2008, or something even more recent than that. It can be like Jean-Paul Gaultier Scandal from like 2019, whatever. You wear a fragrance like that, chances are you're going to be in a social setting, right? You're going to be in a nightclub. You're going to be in a pool hall. You're going to be in a bar, okay? You're going to be somewhere where you expect to meet other people in a social setting, not a business setting, not a formal setting. These are people that you expect to cut loose with, whether you're drinking, playing a couple games. It could even be Dave & Buster's. You're just playing arcade games and eating hot wings, whatever. Doesn't have to necessarily have a sexual connotation. It's just a friendly smelling fragrance, right? At the end of the day, love them or hate them, like 1 Million is very friendly. Le Male is very friendly. Lapidus, very friendly. They're sweet. They're inviting, okay? So it makes sense that you would wear those in a context like that. Would you? Should you? Could you? Is that like the rule? No. Not the rule. Same thing with like summer, winter, and all that, I personally, for myself, and this is speaking only for me, I personally feel like aquatics, eau de cologne fragrances, sharp citrus, fresh, transparent fragrances, terre de Hermes, stuff like that, they wear better in warmer weather because high heat, high humidity tends to make fragrances that are sweeter or spicier or heavier disappear against the backdrop of everything else, because you're sweating, the environment around you is cooking up, the concrete and the sidewalk is getting hot, so you're smelling everything, whether it's the hot dirt, whether it's the hot asphalt, a hot trash can, or your stinky ass. You're smelling everything. So you don't want a fragrance that merges with that, right? You don't want that. You want a fragrance to contrast that. So you want the mint, you want the sharp woods, you want the citruses, you want the cool things, you want the bracing things because they oppose. We could play the same game in reverse, okay? We can flip it and reverse it like Missy Elliott, okay? Put my thing down, right? So when it's cold outside, you don't want to wear menthol, you don't want to wear narrowly, you don't want to wear things that are going to merge with the cold air, because let me tell you what, you lose sensitivity in the cold, because obviously cold affects your nervous system, cold affects everything, you get numb, right? So likewise, the air is cold and you're out in the cold, your sense of smell is dulled somewhat. So you wear things that are light and transparent and minty, they just disappear. They disappear right into the cold air. They're gone. You can't smell them. So you need the spicier things, the muskier things, the resinous things, the patchouli, the tobacco, the stronger leather fragrances. You need that stuff because that stuff is going to, same thing, it's going to contrast the air. Now, some of you might be built differently than me. You might be able to wear cool water in like 20 below weather. You live in Alaska or something and you wear cool water and it's perfectly fine for you. Again, not a hard and fast rule here. It's just one of the things that applies to me, so it makes sense to me as someone who works outside most of the year, most of the time, rather, not most of the year, but my work day I'm outside more than I'm inside. So I have to pay attention. I am beholden to that system for me. If I want to enjoy my fragrance, I have to play that game. You may not have to. But coming full circle, it's the reason for compartmentalization. Because you have a large collection of fragrances, whether it's modestly large, like I said, a few dozen or a few hundred, you need to find a way to make sure you can enjoy everything in a way that's comfortable for you. So, therefore, I say yes, compartmentalize away. The only thing I don't want you to do, okay, the thing that I want you to avoid doing is not experimenting, not having fun. I don't want you to get so hard and fast with your compartmentalization, with your rules, that they become exactly that. They become can't do this, must do that, right? Always and never. You do not want to make it a situation where it's always have to do this, never can do that. You never want to fall into that trap of declarative absolutes like that, because then the fun is over. The perfume journey is over. The joy is gone. You know, you're not having fun. You're like, well, I guess I have to wear this now because it's this time of year. Or I guess I have to wear this now because this is for the office. I can't wear anything else, right? You see, that's the point. It gets to be like that. So it's not fun anymore. If you decide you just want to rip it and wear some Furio to the office, you know, you want to wear some 1 million to the doctor's office, you know, to get your checkup, you know, you want to throw on whatever it is you own. You want to wear some patchouli oil and show up to court smelling like patchouli. You know what? Depending on why you're in that courthouse, you might as well just have fun, right? Because you might be walking out in handcuffs and end up in the county lockup anyway, so you might as well get your kicks while you still can. But that's my point. Experiment, okay? Play around with it. Don't be locked in. And just have these compartments as a general guideline, because, let me tell you, if you do have a very large collection of fragrances, you're someone that does have, like, more than me even, like you have maybe 1,000 fragrances, whatever. You already know there are things you're never going to touch unless you make a game for yourself so that you touch them, you know, whether it's rotations. And here's one last thing about rotations. Rotations can be a fun exercise. Again, I pull a small cutaway from my collection into a tray or whatever, or drawer, and I can only choose from these for a arbitrary period of time. That's a game you want to play with yourself to make sure that you wear those fragrances, because otherwise you would never touch them. Go for it. But here's the thing. After all is said and done, after you've compartmentalized, created your rotations, have your theme weeks, whatever it is that makes you happy, if you find yourself still avoiding a fragrance, like it's been several years since you've touched it, maybe it's time to let it go. Maybe you can't justify wearing it, okay? No matter what you compartmentalize, no matter what you subdivide, you just don't want to wear that fragrance. And if that's the case, move it along. Give it to someone else who does. Sell it, however you want to do it. So that's it, guys. That is my thoughts on compartmentalization. It's the equal opposite to having one signature fragrance that you try to make work for everything. You have a bazillion different fragrances, and you have different reasons for wearing each one, and when you can and when you can't, and all that stuff. So find your own path. I can only nudge you in the right direction. This has been The On List. Have a great one.